Hey, I'm Jenna from Wordable, and you're listening to Marketing Routines, a podcast about the daily and weekly routines, tasks, and rituals that your favorite marketers are doing to bring them success every single day. Welcome to the Marketing Routines podcast. I'm Jenna Potter from Wordable, and today I have Marvin Sanginés on the podcast. Marvin is the CMO and a partner at Insight Consulting, which is based in Berlin. Insight Consulting helps entrepreneurs, founders, and CEOs build their personal brand on social media. I wanted to get Marvin on the podcast today because he has such an interesting story. He took a gap year in 2018, left his hometown of Switzerland, and traveled to the US in Montreal to follow his entrepreneurial dream. He was based in New York City for a while, and he co-founded his first company there with Calvin Hamilton, who's a former social media manager for Gary Vee. Then in 2021, we're back to this year, Marvin joined up with Insight Consulting in Berlin, where he's based today, and he's working with digital celebrities and executives, helping them with their personal brands. I'm really excited to hear what Marvin does on a daily and weekly basis at Insight Consulting as the CMO and the partner, and we'll also cover his favorite tools and resources and learn what he likes to do when he's not working. So let's jump straight into this episode of Marketing Routines. Hey Marvin, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Jenna.
So let's start with your mornings. What does the first hour of your day look like after you wake up?
The first hour of the day, well, I used to be a routine freak, and it kind of like shifted towards being more relaxed about it. So I usually wake up between 7 and 8 a.m. depending on when I got to sleep. And I really been prioritizing my sleep. So if I don't get 7 hours, I feel like I made a big mistake. So wake up around 7 to 8 a.m. And then first thing, I just jug a bunch of water. Sometimes I put some lime juice in it. I stretch and do yoga for about 10 minutes. And then get a light workout in, at least. Like there's those 7-minute workouts, at least one of those, if not going on a run or doing an outdoor workout. And then from there, pretty much the workday starts.
Do you have any products or tools you use in the morning you want to give a shout out to, like a favorite coffee if you drink it or something like that?
Sure, yeah. One thing I've been using for the past couple of months is the 5-minute journal. I don't know if you heard about that.
Yeah.
It's been a very pleasant practice to kind of like start off the day with the right tone and intention. And I've been implementing that and I'm really enjoying it. And coffee is also a major key. I usually fast in the morning, so I skip breakfast. And so black coffee has been a sacred part of my morning routine.
Gets you through the mornings?
100%.
All right, so after your morning routine, it's time to get down to work. Say you have a big list of things that you know you need to do. What do you pick from that list, and how do you prioritize what you're going to work on every day?
Yeah, so we usually start with quarterly goals and then work our way back. And so we have company goals for each department of the company. And then from the quarterly goals, we go back to monthly goals, back to weekly goals. And then from there, every week I have my priorities. It's usually 3 to 5 priorities that I want to get done that week. And so from a day-to-day basis, I start off the day by looking at if anything came in this day that I need to take care of, any fire that needs to be taken care of. And from there, I just look at my weekly goals and prioritize accordingly based on what I put into Asana, for example. And I usually have a good idea on what I need to prioritize.
So you mentioned Asana. Do you have any other favorite tools and softwares that you use every day to help you and your team work?
Yeah, for sure. Well, Apple Notes at the moment it's like my second brain. So I have different notes for different recurring meetings or topics that I'm working on that I revisit, and that then on a weekly basis I take those notes, I go over them, and I add whatever needs to be taken care of or what should be turned into something into Asana. And so another thing that I like to use is Brain FM. It's an audio software tool that supposedly helps you focus. For me, it's just been like a nice pattern recognition. It's something that I associate with deep work. And so whenever I get into work, I just put on some Brain FM and I get into the zone. So that's one tool I really enjoy. And other than that, yeah, Asana is our work management tool. Google Calendar is pretty much my life at the moment. Everything I do on a daily basis is being put into a Google Calendar. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
I love that idea with the Brain FM and tricking your brain into thinking it's work mode. I'm going to try that out myself. All right, let's talk about email. Everyone I've had on the podcast has said it's kind of a struggle. So, do you have any tips and tricks you use yourself to stay on top of email? What's your process around email on a daily basis?
Yeah, so for me, email isn't really that big of an issue. I just check it. I try to check it 3 times a day. So first thing in the morning when I'm kind of like planning out my day or looking at the daily's priorities, and then after lunch, and then in the evening when I'm checking out of work, I just check in with email. I do catch myself kind of just opening up Gmail every here and there, but it hasn't been that big of an issue. What I struggle more so with is Slack, because obviously there's daily interruptions that come in and kind of like team members wanting something from you. I have to give feedback to something, customers who have a question. And so there I just try to turn off notifications when I know I need to get into deep work mode, and just try to manage it that way. But for email, just 3 kind of like blocks where I check it. And other than that, I'm pretty good about not worrying about email too much.
That's a good system. And let's talk about learning and consuming other people's work. How do you fit that into your schedule, if you even do that? And do you have any favorite content creators you want to give a shout out to?
For sure. There has also been an evolution. I used to be huge into courses and just consuming a lot of educational content online. And I used to dedicate one morning every week to just go through courses or that educational content, usually on Fridays. These days, it's a bit busier. My schedule is a bit fuller than it used to be. And so most of my learning comes from listening to podcasts on the go. So usually when I commute to work, during lunch, when I'm cooking up some food, or when I'm just relaxing in the evening or going for a walk, then I like to listen to podcasts. That's pretty much my main source of education at the moment, as well as LinkedIn. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, obviously also work related. And so I do also follow a lot of content creators on LinkedIn who put out great content. And you mentioned whether or not there are some people I want to give a shout out to or that I particularly listen to. And there's 2 that come to mind immediately. The first one is Dave Gerhart. I'm part of his DGMG group, a close community, a monthly subscription. And it's been a great source of learning, especially for me as I got into B2B marketing and just getting the foundation right and prioritizing the right things. So Dave Gerhart is awesome. And then the second one that I've been addicted to the past couple of months is Chris Walker from Refine Labs. His podcast, State of Demand Gen, is probably, I'd say, like the most valuable content I've seen out there for B2B marketers as of recently. And I've been applying a lot of what he's talking about into our own business. And so, yeah, big shout out to those 2 guys.
Yeah, I love both of them as well. They're very good, very valuable content. I highly recommend anyone check them out. All right, so let's move on to your work setup. What's your daily work setup like? Do you work in an office or from home, or do you balance the 2?
So beginning of the year, I was working from our office in Berlin pretty much every day. I just enjoyed being around the team. I had just joined the team, and so being close to everyone, getting feedback and just communicating a lot was key. Now, since the summer days have started and our team is growing steadily, it's been getting fuller, and I've been working from home a bit more. And so I work from home, I'd say probably around 3 days per week at the moment. And then I'm at the office around 2 days per week. And then when it comes to the setup, I just moved into a new apartment, so I'm still working on the setup here in Berlin. I used to have a standing desk in New York, so that was key. Right now, I just put on like a small coffee table on top of my current desk, which allows me to still stand as I'm talking to you. I'm seeing you. I think you're standing too, right?
I am, yeah, and I don't usually. I'm trying it out today, and I like it.
Yeah, nice. And other than that, I mean, I enjoy home office just for deep work blocks, for calls, and to create content. And yeah, other than that, I mean, I have a mic that I usually use when I'm working from home. But yeah, I got to get the standing desk. I love plants just for the overall vibes, but it's pretty simple.
And what's the one habit that you've added in the past year that's really made an impact on your life?
If I had to choose one, I would say it's going for walks. I used to be very impatient when it comes to going outside, just get to the destination and just what's the output of that activity. But ever since COVID, especially when I moved to New York about like 18 months ago, I just started going on walks on a daily basis because I didn't know what else to do really. And I just felt the urge to get outside. And I realized how freeing that was, and how much peace of mind I got from doing that. And a key pillar there too was that I often then wouldn't consume any content during the walk. So I like to listen to podcasts while walking, or music, but going for walks intentionally without any input, and just letting my thoughts kind of like flow and freeing up that mental clutter has been a very valuable practice. And so I'd say going for walks and going on runs has also been something I picked up. I used to hate to go on runs, but it's been probably the most potent drug I've encountered so far is going for runs. So yeah, those two.
And what do you like to do when you're not working? What do you do for fun?
I'd say what I just touched on, workout, is a very important part of my life. Other than that, I really enjoy consuming good content. Oftentimes it is still work related. So I watch a ton of YouTube. That's pretty much the only thing I consume when it comes to content outside of work. So a lot of YouTube. And then outside of that, I used to throw events until COVID hit too. So host events and just connect with other people from the startup scene, with creatives, with musicians. I really enjoy that atmosphere. And sometimes I even record some music. Maybe that's another thing I've picked up that I quite enjoy.
What kind of music do you play?
I would call it Swiss cloud rap. So I rap a little bit in Swiss German just for fun. And it's funny, sometimes I just hang out, or I'm wrapping up the day and I feel the urge to just like get the mic out and record something. So yeah, it's been fun.
That's awesome. I play a little bit of bass, and I find it's one of the best ways to like turn off work brain and just get into the moment. It's one of the only things that can like really take my mind off things that I have to do.
Nice. Maybe we should collab one day.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So speaking of that, do you find it hard to shut off your work brain, or do you have any tips and tricks you have for doing that?
Yeah, I thought about that a lot in the past, and I have to say it's not something I worry about that much anymore, because work these days feels like play. It feels like what I want to do anyway, and so I don't really worry about it, and I don't really believe in work-life balance that much, just because I enjoy what I'm doing. I want to get better at what I'm doing, and so even if I'm doing things outside of work, or I'm not in the office or at home, kind of like on the laptop, I can't help but then just think about stuff. And I at this point, I kind of like look at the world from almost like a content lens. So whatever happens, I'm like, oh, that could be a piece of content. Oh, we could talk about this. And so it's fun to me. I might change that my opinion around that in 12 months from now, when I'm burnt out by so much content. But right now, I don't worry about it too much. But I mean, what do I do when I want to shut off? I quit Slack. I don't just close it, I quit it, notifications off. Same goes for Google Chrome. That's pretty much the ritual for me to signal to myself that I'm done. I don't have to do anything. From now on, it's just things I'm curious about that I might invest time into. And the Note app does open up quite frequently whenever something pops up.
And what does the last hour of your day look like before you go to bed?
Man, I used to be so disciplined about the last hour. I had a beautiful evening routine. I have to admit, the past couple of months, it hasn't been as strict anymore. The things I do every day, though, that I just have to be, is that I put my phone onto airplane mode, the latest around 15 to 30 minutes before I go to bed. And then I don't do this every day, but whenever I feel the need to do so, a great practice for me to declutter the mind and to just get peace of mind again and just free up whatever worries and thoughts popped up during the day or week, is to just open up kind of like a Notes app once again and just journal, but without any structure. Just write out whatever comes to mind, almost like an update, and just decluttering everything. That worked very well whenever things got tough, or I felt pressure, or whenever I just felt the need to. So that's just something I enjoy doing in the evening as well. Always end the day with a cup of tea. That's also something I enjoy. And then 5-minute journal once again, morning and evening. And then the last thing I do every night is just to read until I get sleepy. I used to have some insomnia, or just wasn't able to get to sleep that well. But just reading until my eyes start to kind of like close and I notice, okay, I'm getting tired, has been great to just get to sleep, and at the same time also consume great content, whether it's fiction or non-fiction, although it has been more fiction as of recently in the evenings.
What are you reading right now?
I'm rereading Dune right now. Highly recommend. It was a tough read. I had to pretty much Google every second word I read. But Frank Herbert has a very interesting vocabulary. But Dune is what I'm rereading at the moment. I would recommend that. Yeah, to anyone who's curious about fiction. And there's a lot of kind of like bridges you can tie between the book and kind of like the fictional world, and then the things we worry about today, whether it's kind of like the environment or authoritarian governments and just how our social structure is made up. Highly recommend Dune, and that's a great read. That's what I'm currently rereading.
Yeah, it's a good time to read that as well because the movie's coming out this year, I think.
It is. Yeah, I was very hyped about that. I wasn't into movies that much anymore, but when I saw that Dune is coming out, I was, yes, perfect timing.
Right. My last question for you is, who do you think we should have next on this podcast? Either someone you want to know what their daily routine is like, or you know that they already have a good one.
Yeah. One person that comes to mind whose content I've been enjoying on LinkedIn quite a bit, as well as on his podcast, is Dan Sanchez. He's the head of growth or VP of growth at Sweetfish Media, a podcasting agency. And I'd be very curious to hear about his routines and how he levels up, because I feel like he's on top of his game, and he's really leveling up what Sweetfish Media is doing from a marketing perspective. So I think he would be a great guest for the podcast.
Sweet, I'll reach out to him. Thank you.
Of course.
All right, that's it for this episode. Thank you so much, Marvin, for recording this episode with me today. If you want to find Marvin online, I'll have his LinkedIn profile in the show notes, as well as a link to Insight Consulting. So if you're an executive wanting to grow your personal brand online, you should definitely check that out. Every recommendation that was mentioned today on the podcast will also be linked on the show notes page at podcast.wordable.io. Do you have any final words?
Drink a lot of water. Thank you so much for having me, Jenna. And I'm out.
All right, thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye. Thanks for listening to Marketing Routines. If content publishing is a part of your daily routine, or even if someone else on your team is handling it, Wordable makes exporting documents from Google Drive to your CMS so much faster and easier. You'll have your document formatted and published in 1 minute instead of the usual hour it would take you to optimize everything. You can try it out for yourself with your first 3 exports free at wordable.io.